All right, we are live, and we'll just give 1 second while we go to the live share on all of our platforms. There we go. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us today. We're here for another session of the MSP Initiative. I'm very excited to be joined by both Corey Eberly and David Coles of Castle Rock Sky. So
how's it going?
Do you guys want to take a second and introduce yourselves?
I'm Corey.
I'm Dave.
We're with Castle Rock Sky. We're an MSP, believe it or not, in the town of Castle Rock. Not that that should scare anybody, that our marketing genius came up with that name, but it's a little bit south of Denver. It's in one of the suburbs. We've been around for officially less than a year. This has kind of been brewing for a year and a half, but yeah, we service mostly the financial services firms in Denver, and also, interesting enough, we've had a big push into the nonprofit space in Colorado. So that's kind of who we focus on. Most of our clients are in the demographic of 10. Well, that's not demographic. The size of about 10 to about 75 employees. Okay. What we focus on. So.
Awesome.
I guess that's that. I'm sitting on top of this rock over here. That is actually Castle Rock right here. So it's a gorgeous
Perfect.
day. It's a gorgeous day.
Yeah, no, it looks beautiful there. One of the main things that I asked Corey and David to join for was we do these surveys at the end of the MSP Initiative. If you haven't done one of these yet or filled one of these out yet, I highly encourage it. Or if you are sitting there saying, hey, I wish they talked about X or Y, jump on, fill out the survey at the end, or email our team. Well, we do pay attention to those. We do read those. And one of the biggest ones we kept getting asked for was sales. It's a weird year. All right. The guys who used to do the door-to-door sales, that's obviously taken a pretty strong halt over the last year. And now I think it's into this, what's next? And, do things permanently change? And how do we move forward? So, I mean, I obviously don't want you guys to give away the secret sauce. You guys are clearly doing really well, and
it's not a secret, but yeah, we'll tell you. We'll tell you about the sauce. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk a little bit? Actually, you know what? I have a quick question off of what you were saying there. Nonprofits, I've seen that go really well, and I've seen that go really bad. I've seen it kind of go both ways.
Sounds kind of like regular clients too, huh?
True. Very
First
true.
Off, before you go any further, Dave, what in the world are you drinking out of? Is that your?
Oh yeah, I'm sporting my.
They can't
my
see it.
Friendship is magic mug.
Love it.
Okay.
My daughter was pretty sure that I bought it for her, but she was wrong.
I didn't know if that was your My Little Pony coffee cup, so I was a little.
Yep.
Anyhow, sorry to digress. I just got
sidebarred. No, that was a good question. I actually I had missed the first time, so I'm happy I got a good look at it.
Yeah. So you want to talk about nonprofits and how great they are?
I'm just curious. I've heard MSPs say that they've gone into it and they've done really well. And I've heard MSPs, and it could be geography, it could be a lot of things. I know one of the struggles I've heard in the past is, well, my MSPs don't give me a certain cut, and that's why nonprofits tend to go in the past direct.
Like a tech soup.
Yeah, exactly. Like so a lot of the nonprofits are always looking for the discount up front for being a nonprofit, and not all vendors offer that. So I know I've heard MSPs run into that plenty of times. But yeah, I mean, how are you guys finding it overall?
We actually let me think out loud here, Dave. What do we have? 2 or 3 nonprofits that we sponsor right now. We're in the midst of helping one of them. This will be the nightmare that we probably talk about. Alec, is another nonprofit is trying to get out of an agreement. They're about Dave, help me out. Are they about 150 people, 150 users? Is that fair?
Yeah, I think they peaked at 180 at one point, but.
Yeah, but the first nonprofit was a referral to us, and they're like, hey, you guys are perfect. You should take care of them. These are great. And then once we met them, we're like, oh my gosh, this is like right up our alley. We like what their mission is. Plus they were good people. They were fun and easy to work with. One of the things out here in Colorado was on Nonprofit Gives Day. Colorado, what was that, back in December? If you follow us on LinkedIn, you'll see that back back in December, we highlighted them, and they're only a 5-6. Well, now they're going to be a 6-person company, but they just weren't getting any of the attention that they needed as from their MSP. The MSP that they had really kind of had them on like a block time. Call us when you need something, but don't call us.
Okay.
And then when they would call, it would take days for them to get back, which still baffles Dave and I that it takes people that long. But we put them on an all-you-can-eat plan. We had talked to them what their spend was. Dave, did they even know that they could get nonprofit Microsoft?
Well, I was going to say that to us so far, the secret has really been every nonprofit that we run into is kind of wrestles with this question of how do we maximize our spend, right? Because everybody's trying to save money, everybody's trying to get value for what their spending is, but nonprofits in particular, are going back to the boards and justify all the dollar spend that's a cost. It's not a direct I'm helping the cause,
exactly,
kind of a dollar. And IT, it's all infrastructure, it's all part of the operating expenses. So one of the things that we've really tried to do, and we still have a ways to go, is first off, try to put together a solution that we can look them in the eye and say, guys, this is the most maximized package of things that you can get, that you need to have. You have to have security in place. You have to have, operational stuff in place. And we've gone out and made all the phone calls, and we're still in the process of beating up all the vendors to keep pushing that for you guys. So you guys don't have to waste all this time saying, well, there's somebody, out of Russia that's offering nonprofits free anti-malware, right? That sounds great. Let's do that. You can kind of take a breath and rest assured that the package that we're offering you is vetted, and it's as much as we can possibly make it optimized for a nonprofit where we're getting vendor discounts and those kinds of things. And so that to us has been the real value add, where when you can sit down and say, like Corey said, we've run into 2 or 3 where no one's ever told them that they can go get 10 free M365 licenses. They might know about TechSoup. They might be getting a discounted rate. They might be paying less as they should be, but they don't know the depth of what's available to them because they're not us. They don't spend their lives hanging out with the vendors and finding these things out.
Yeah.
So one of the keys, I think, for a really successful relationship with a nonprofit is speaking their language and really communicating.
Yeah.
We're bringing you value. I'm not just selling you the cheapest discounted package available. Yeah. You're getting what you need for a price that's reasonable for a nonprofit.
Yeah, it makes sense. Absolutely. I think that was a lot of the worry in the past, was that the margin thins out when you start trying to, like you said, meet that demands of the board.
Well,
it does, and it can, but
yeah.
And we just, this particular one that we're talking about, we just did their QBR last week. And yeah, it's not a top 5 client for us as far as revenue and profit, and that's fine, but we still are selling them the same products. So we went down the path of, hey, we really have to implement SOC as a service for you guys, and here's why. And they totally get it. The only difference is they have to turn around and then go back to somebody on the board and say, hey, we need to add this into our stack this year, and here's why. I mean, SOC as a service is pretty simple to do with everything that's going on right now. But yeah, again, it's not a top 5, but this particular one, we love who they are. We love what they do. Can't tell you who their number 1 donor is, but let's put it this way. They make the best burritos in Denver. Is that
very nice?
Is that fair enough? I know there's one person on here that's from Denver. I can see the attendees, so I won't give it away, but Treef probably knows who it is anyhow, so.
Well, on that, I mean, obviously you talk now about managing that client, right, and growing them and working with them. What are you guys seeing out there for, I mean, you're a little bit south of Denver. Are you expanding outside of your service area? How did you guys react last year when, things hit and went digital? What was kind of the plan there?
What was the plan?
First, there was no plan, but then we kind of figured
Try
out.
not to drown. Try not to die. No, we're big fans of work from home anyhow. I mean, so it kind of fit right into our wheelhouse. And then most of everything we were doing with our clients was over Teams. You know, I know we're on Zoom, but I mean, we were doing everything through Teams. We were educating people on the difference between Zoom and Teams, and I want to say Hangouts. There wasn't Hangouts, but down where we're at, my wife's a teacher in the Douglas County School District.
Oh yeah,
We
Google
really had to
Classroom and-
educate everybody, how this works. Little shout out to teachers. They're usually last on the technology stack, so I had to explain to her how it worked.
My mom's a special ed teacher, so I did a
Yeah.
crash course in Google Classroom when this all started.
Right, and you're like, what in the world is this? But no, I mean, as far as last year, there was it didn't really deviate us too far from our plan of what we were doing anyhow. So it didn't really affect us like it probably did some of the larger MSPs in our geographic region. But we've always been focused on right now just staying in the Denver metro or the state of Colorado. But we do have a couple of clients that have offices and remote workers anyhow. So it's one of those fun questions where people are like, what's your territory? What's your geography? I'm like, well, we'll do anything in the world, but I mean, we prefer to do stuff that's headquartered or at least has an office here on the Denver Front Range is what we call it here. So
makes sense. Yeah, we BVoIP operates pretty remotely, which is nice. We have a kind of a cluster of people in upstate New York where I am, a cluster of people in Philadelphia. And then it's actually a practice we adopted from our MSP was because of where we are with New York and DC and Philadelphia and New Jersey, you just get so many people that are sucked into these giant companies. It was really hard to hire talent. And because of that, we naturally evolved into, we hired actually somebody in Denver, we hired somebody in Portland, we kind of spread out across the calendar, across the states. And the nice thing there was all of a sudden we had coverage in all these different time zones as people just working their normal day or even just, 1 hour ahead schedule. We're getting incredible coverage. So that worked out really well for us. So definitely no stranger to that myself.
Yeah. Perfect.
So once you did that, how'd you start selling again? What was that like?
One of the things that I would like to say we're pretty good at is we do get referrals from our clients and we don't really ask. We don't like flat out ask for them. I don't want to date myself, but back in the 90s, I had a Northwestern Mutual Life rep, and at the end of every meeting you'd have with them, they're like, okay, give us 3 people that we can call and you can refer to. I mean, we don't do that, but we've had people, say, hey, you should talk to these guys, or these guys are really struggling, or we'll flip it around and say, hey, do you know anyone else that's kind of going through what you're going through? We have seen that in the nonprofit space where the executive director, again, at this particular nonprofit, it's like, oh, you should talk to these guys, you should talk to those guys. He's even forwarded us emails of their internal network where, hey, these guys are looking for so-and-so, you should probably reach out to them. And he's even said, if you need a warm intro, we'll do it for you. So
that's great.
We're like, heck yeah, let's do that if you could. So we're not, I think I'd mentioned this to you earlier. I think this is what mostly MSPs that would be listening to this. We're not in the Robin Robbins or Chris Weiser stack. Not that we're against it, but we really, are kind of at this word of mouth. And if you talk to more mature MSPs than us, not just whatever Dave's doing, but we're not really hammering the social media that we.
It's funny how many emergencies a guy can have in the space of 30 seconds on the side.
Isn't it funny? Like as soon as you get on the phone,
look at me, I'm fixing everything everywhere all the time. Just not you guys on live camera.
Right. But the thing for me, Alec, is I used to be a headhunter recruiter, so I have a lot of connections as far as IT managers, software development managers. When I was recruiting, I did pretty much the entire software development lifecycle, from tech support at a software company all the way up to like architects. But then there's always a tangent that drops into the infrastructure guys. And as the worlds collided and bled together, a lot of these guys that I've dealt with over the last 15, 20 years have now been promoted into leadership positions. So if I see that there's a change or a move or something's going on with one of their companies, I really live within LinkedIn, and I'll send notes to Dave like, hey, check this out or check that out, or I'll get I think with LinkedIn, I literally get a daily update of so-and-so hit an anniversary, or so-and-so left. Alex Sanders left BVoIP and he went to XYZ. So I'm always like, hey, dude, I saw that you got a new position. Congrats.
Yep.
And then I'll make a reminder in my file here.
It's funny too, because everybody's kind of broadcasting what's going on, right? And so we'll track down people that don't even know what they don't know, because, you know, hey, I'm a 60-person company trying to hire a full-time sysadmin. Why are you going to go spend 80, 90 grand on a guy who's going to be there for a year, fix all your printer problems, realize he's never going to go anywhere, and then he's going to jet, you know? Being in that space is that sweet spot of, let's have a conversation about how, I mean, you know, it'll cost you less than a full-time body, and you're buying all your licensing too. Like there's so much value you can stack into that. And we're flexible enough, you know, we really, you know, we prefer to describe ourselves as a co-managed company, as opposed to we're not really a pure play MSP, although we are for some customers, if it makes sense. But it's this slot where even if you're pushing up into a larger size and you've got a full-time guy who's, you know, a tier 1.5 that's handling, you know, all the hand holding and all the user stuff, you guys don't need to have a system engineer on staff. You don't need to have a $120,000 guy on staff, but you do want to be able to get a hold of one when you need one. And so watching LinkedIn employment stuff has been fun for me to see behind the curtain with Corey, just because it's, you know, everybody's telling you what they need, but they don't really know what they need. They're telling you there's a hole. It's
but they're not telling you what they exactly need. So
another example,
another example, Alec, is we got introduced to a client that the IT, I don't know, what was she, a manager, director? You know what I'm talking about. And she said she was dealing with, she came out of another MSP. And a thing that Dave didn't, I thought he was going to go there. We almost start telling our clients we're not MSPs, that we're BSPs. I'm not a big fan of the word managed service provider, even though that's exactly who we all are. We actually are business solution providers, and maybe we'll get into that because of all the different things that we're selling or solving for them. But anyhow, back to what Dave was saying, as far as, you know, watching people transition from one position or one company to another. This individual took over as their internal IT. It was about an 85, 90 person company, and she needed some external help. Well, we helped her with the licensing aspect. So they got out of, I forget who they were with before, but we took over their Microsoft CSP. Well, over the last 14 months, we have added more and more services in there. So we really are playing the long game. We're not playing the short game.
Yeah, we don't care which toe is the toe that gets jammed into the door. But once we've got one toe in, 12 months later.
And we literally will say, look, hey, we're here to help. Anything we can help you with. We really want to be, you know, your outsourced IT and handle everything. They're like, and they were kind of like, no, slow down. We'll just give you the CSP piece of the business. And then we were like, okay, well, here's how this works. You know, don't change your licenses until the beginning of the month, you know, simple stuff like that. And then it always turns into, okay, so what else is going on? She literally only lasted 2 months at that organization, left and went somewhere else. So then they brought in a new person, and not to upset anybody that's in their 20s, but he was, you know, it was his first full-time position as an IT manager director. And we were like, dude, we'll just take everything. If you have any questions, I mean, for people on here, we'd say we take the low hanging fruit, but what we said to him is we'll take all the problems that you're just like, you don't have time for. So over the last 9 months, we've added more and more, because we're playing the long game. We're not saying we got to have the whole thing or run away.
Well, and it takes time to build up that trust too, because it's, you know,
he didn't know us from Adam.
It's the old, it's the old Bob Coppedge adage, you know, I'm not here for your job. I know you're brand new, and that we're not. I mean, we can, if you don't want to work here anymore, we'll do everything if you want, but I don't need that. Like, we don't need to ride down the hill and slaughter everything. But it really becomes, that what hurts, you know, our entire industry and our entire company is built on IT sucks, and people hate it. And a lot of times we hate it, but they're paying us to hate it for them. You know what I mean?
Is it the Splunk shirt that says take the SH out of
exactly.
IT, right? So
Yeah,
what we had
no.
said, so what we said to him then, Alec, was this: listen, you're probably not. We already know your organization. We're not going to, try to scare you, but we know you're going to get. No, you don't get to hire anybody else. You're an 80, 85 person company. You're not going to get to hire anybody else. So we'll take all the stuff off. So we became Jamf partners. So now we are
Okay.
his Apple piece. We went and did all the research back and forth between Adigy and Jamf, and Dave's in a massive Slack channel where somebody's like, dude, you got to go this route. But we've taken that piece, and now we're at the point where he's telling us in the next 90 days that they're going to make a switch for the rest of their MSP business that they had from the previous company. So we've always believed in playing the long game, and
Yep.
I think it's going to come around. If we don't get it, we know I'd be surprised, and I don't want to, curl up and
Well, and
get
it
upset if we don't get it.
takes time to learn, and that's part of that DSP mentality of, I joke with Corey all the time. Our entire industry is full of solutions looking for problems.
That's me. That's what I do.
And it, and it takes it takes a while to figure out what, but obviously there's some non-negotiable standards, right? There's security
Right.
pieces that have to be in place. There's stuff that, like, if you're just a sane, reasonable business person, we're going to do that makes sense. But once you get past that, first tier of, minimum standard care, you start moving into how do you guys do business? What's your workflow? Where the, it's like refining an assembly line, right? Like, I need to watch you guys do your thing so that I can understand
Where the holes are.
Yeah, because
Well-
if I roll in and say, let's move QuickBooks to hosted QuickBooks and solve all these problems, and the reality is that completely breaks everything about how you're doing financing, then I haven't helped you at all. I've created a nightmare.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of folks that are real fast to jump and try to shove their solutions into the square hole.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
big
would
boys.
say-
Is the peg square or is the hole square?
Yeah. I would
Round,
say
square peg into a.
we go round hole. Yep.
You can
Each
make
each one
that
of our
happen with
clients is
force, though.
different.
If it's a square
Yeah.
one, you can't fill it with a round. Anyway.
Yeah. What the other thing that Dave's saying, I had to go look at my LinkedIn to see what it was called. Strength Finders. I don't know if you remember that from like a decade ago. My number one is context. Well, that's because I'm a history major too, right?
Okay.
So like when Dave's talking about the assembly line, when we get out to these guys, and again, you probably want to know how do we get to them to start with first, but when we get out to them, I'm like, okay, you got to show us the whole thing. In a previous life, when Dave and I worked at another MSP, when we would get leads and go out and talk to people, they would say to us, okay, well, tell us what you are, who you are, what you can do, all this. And I would always, pull the old time out. I'm like, okay, hold on. What are we here for? Which is kind of an in-your-face response, but I'm like, you called us, so
Yep.
what's broke, or what was
you
what
came
was the
into the
trigger that made
ER.
you call us?
Is your leg broken?
Something
Can you
happened.
breathe?
So what
What's
happened?
going on?
No, that's a question I think a lot of people are uncomfortable asking upfront.
Well,
But I think it's
now
a
that you've
crucial
met
one.
me for the last, couple times, you know that is not uncomfortable.
That
for
is
me
not
at
you.
all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can always
I'm
back
like,
off
on
and
the
be
phone.
gentle later, but let's figure out what's going on.
It's a
'cause if
politer
you're-
version of what's your problem, but
No, listen, we do the same exact thing here with phones, right? I mean, we get somebody who calls in and they're, well, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this, and that's fine. But what is broken right now? Is it your bill? Is it your features? Is it your hardware?
Yeah.
Right? What is
there's
the
10,000
problem?
things you can sell, right?
And sometimes you
Exactly.
identify the fact that the thing that's broken is you guys, and I'm not going to fix it. And you're going to be
Mhm.
just as mad at me for exactly the same reasons you're mad at your current environment. And
Those are out there.
like,
We
let's
were on a
figure that
call
out.
2 days ago.
The sooner we can find that out, the better for everybody.
We were on a call 2 days ago, and the shortest we have fired. We've had 2 clients where we've asked them to be successful elsewhere. How's that?
We've had a handful of us.
And one, this is where I think Dave and I are real quick, or I think unique for us. I almost said weird, but I won't let Dave say that at any client meetings. What's unique for us is if it's not working out, we have 0 issues with saying this isn't working out. Let's call it what it is. So we had one client last 6 weeks. That's the one that we're like, she's like, I don't think this is working. I'm like, I agree. let's get you transitioned. Do I need to give you a 30-day notice? I'm like, nope, let's just figure it out. If you've got somebody else, let's just do it. And we did it within a week. It took a while to
It was a
flip
pretty
it, you know.
simple environment.
Yeah. The other one was at the beginning of this month. We had a contract that was supposed to start February 1. She's not on this call, so I'll say whatever I want to say. She literally was starting to light us up the weekend before on stuff that she needed. She had a new hire starting on Monday. This is on Wednesday. I need you to buy a laptop. I need you to configure it, whole thing. And it needs to be up and ready to go at her place on Monday in Tennessee at 8 o'clock. We're like, okay, no. And she literally was just hammering us. And we're like, this isn't going to work out. Well, here was the issue, just so you know, like, how do you screw this up so fast, right? With this second one, the one that was just in February, the guy that needed the assistance, he was the internal IT guy. And he's like, hey, we want to do this. We want to get to the cloud. We want to do this. We're like, fantastic. He's actually my neighbor. And we're like, okay, we can do all this. So we talked him through it and did all this, spent probably a month doing it. Well, then the CEO of the organization is the person that we didn't talk to. And that is who we should have been talking to the whole time.
Shame on us.
We're like, okay, we can do this. She wanted this. And I'm like, well, if you want that, I don't want to say you got to pay for it, but it just wasn't, the pain factor was too high. So we're like, this isn't going to work. He agreed. He apologized. We're all friends still, you know, but we've laid an egg or two in the past anyhow, where, I mean, that's the most recent one. So it just doesn't always work out. I think you have to be able to pivot as quick as possible to
Absolutely.
say, hey, we're not going to do this. Because the flip side of that is the nonprofit that we're dealing with that we would like to land, they signed a 3-year agreement with like a regional player. And in their contract, it was a 6-month out. They had to give a 6-month notice if they were going to move on. Well, they're so pissed off at their current MSP that when they're putting this out to RFP here in the next quarter, they won't even let them bid on it. But if you're not in it together, then you need to get out. So anyhow, back to, you know, how did we find them? The other nonprofit had talked to us. We had actually spoken to this nonprofit 3 years ago in a previous life. And we just kept our finger on the pulse, like, hey, how you guys doing? What's going on? So again, we don't just like send an email, have a conversation, and then go away. We're literally like, okay, look, probably arrogant, but I'm like, look, you're going to do business with us sooner or later. So we'll wait, you know, and it took 3 years for us to get to this point. Again, we don't have the contract, but we're actually helping them write the RFP.
Are you incentivizing those referrals for the existing clients? No? Very nice.
No,
Very nice.
I learned a long
Well, I
time
mean,
ago.
we're
If you
incentivizing
incentivize
them.
referrals, they're garbage.
We're incentivizing
Yeah,
it from the perspective of, remember how much your life sucked and how it doesn't suck now? Who do you know whose life sucks?
What you want to pay it for?
We all want to help our friends out.
Yeah.
So it's more.
Here's
it's
a
more of
burrito too. Here's a breakfast
pain.
burrito.
It's a pain removal incentivization, I guess.
Very
Yeah.
fair. Yeah, no, I mean, I've worked at a handful of vendors over my time, and I've definitely seen referral programs that are just send a lead. And I agree with you. I think that's the worst.
Dude, when I was an internal recruiter at a software company and we had a referral program, our CFO came up with a great guy. You know, hey, we'll give you $500 if you refer a software developer. I got literally like 100 resumes that were just a pile of hot garbage. And I'm like, what in the world is this? I want $500. I'm like, no. So we had to shut it down. So anytime I see a paid referral.
We bought some thank you lunches.
Yeah.
But,
or even if I see a vendor say, we'll give you paid
programmatically.
Yeah. I mean, I know you're writing us a check for being on here. That's great.
Which thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. In
Anytime.
advance. Yeah.
Dinner on me when we're over.
But yeah, we don't do paid. We don't do paid referrals. And anytime I see referrals that are paid, I'm like, eh.
I found some success when I've done, pay upon success, right? So if, for instance, if it's a hiring, if you put somebody into the program, they do get hired, then at, I think the most successful one I ever saw was at 6 months, you got half of the payment, and at 12 months, you got the other half. So like they had to really be in it and working for you to actually get paid out on it.
Yeah.
that I felt wasn't too bad. But I've also been on the other side, like
That
you
makes
said,
sense. Yeah.
where you just get dumped on from horrible stuff, and it's making more work than it is good.
Yeah. I guess I just live on LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
I sat in on a Robin Robbins seminar yesterday, and I got a little hyped up, and Dave's like, okay, calm down. But, there literally is, you have to pay attention to every avenue and angle. I mean, like I said, I had a referral from my neighbor, just didn't work out, but that's okay. I'm still listening to it. When we're having our QBRs with our clients, we're like, okay, anybody else that's going through this? We have one client, I'm like, he's actually in the real estate business, and he's actually doing okay despite the pandemic. I'm like, well, who else should I talk to? And he goes, no, I'm not even going to turn you on to anybody else. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, but we'll ask it once or twice and then we'll leave it alone.
Yeah.
But,
Makes sense. Do you are you using any tools alongside LinkedIn, Navigator?
oh my gosh,
Seamless?
yes. I thought you were going to ask me if I was going to use any CRMs, and I was going to just blast Salesforce right now. Put them on blast. Dave's laughing. I got a story on that one, but I'm using LinkedIn Sales
When
Navigator.
we hit 300 employees, we'll revisit sales.
My wife's not home because I have it on my Southwest card so I can get points, but I probably only go in there once a week to look at it because I'm still getting plenty of other stuff. I mean, I have like 6,000 connections, Alec, and that's just from the recruiter days. But I still do make lists in there, and then I end up just coming around to just people who I know. So I guess if anybody was going to like hire like a biz dev guy, I would find somebody that was getting out of the recruiting industry that was doing recruiting in like IT infrastructure is probably, if we got to the point where we needed to hire a biz dev person, that's what I would look for. Somebody that was probably at a Robert Half or a Tech Systems that had to grind out X number of phone calls or visits and meets because they would know everybody in your territory. I mean, the Robert Half guys, and that was a long time ago for me. That was like post 9/11 for me. Those guys know everybody, and that's probably who you should hire as far as a biz dev if you're looking for leads and or tech, somebody like that. What is there? There's like a dozen of them now. Robert Half, Tech Systems, Modus.
Tech Systems is one I'm seeing a lot, but there's a bunch of them out there. There's regionalized ones.
Or if you wanted to go the engineering route, then that's the guys at Aerotech because that's the sister company. But that's who I would probably really target if we wanted to get somebody on our staff to really crank out
dials.
But I would make sure that they actually can pick up the phone too. I mean, again, not to date myself, we didn't have, LinkedIn. We actually had to make phone calls and go.
They were literally printing out MapQuest so they could get in the car and go see people.
That's how I bought my first car. MapQuest and a 3-hour drive.
It's a joke. I always say Map. Such an ass. What an ass.
No,
we would draw directions in the dirt like we were drawing up.
Corey, pull over. That gas station will have directions.
Sycamore tree. That's where the clients are at. Yeah.
Always landmarks. Always landmarks.
We joke, but the funny thing is that even in the extraordinarily digitally connected world that we live in now, it's always absolutely stunning to me every single time that every single thing that we ever do with a client always ends up ultimately coming back to they're just people. Sit down, say hi, look them in the eye, shake their hand. I mean, it's been hard this last year, but get on Zoom and eyeball it, look right at the camera, and it's nothing's changed. People are people, and even though we're selling, high-tech cybersecurity and business process improvement shenanigans, it's all just, I'm a guy with a business and this hurts and you can make it better. Let's go.
What he's not telling you too is when we go out and talk to people is you have to have that balance. He already knows where I'm going. You have to have that balance. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. Well, I'm the sales guy. Dave's like, no, we can't.
Reel it in.
And then I'll have to kick him under the table. I'm like, don't say the word weird. He said that at one client, like, oh, your infrastructure is weird. I'm like, nah, the word is unique.
So now he just introduces me as the office of no. So I said, no.
Every office needs one of those.
Kind of, but not like he's telling you.
He's like, Corey means.
We can find a way, but it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
Not us. I've got somebody to refer you to.
Oh man, no, honestly, we've seen a lot of success with. I don't know if you've ever tried the tool Seamless, but if you're a big LinkedIn user, that's a pretty slick tool.
Which is it? What's it called?
Seamless.ai. So
I've-
it's essentially it's a search query that connects via Chrome, and it can automatically create contacts within your HubSpot or your Salesforce, whatever CRM you're using. But it also connects to Navigator, so you can pull up to like 2,500 contacts a day, and it'll actually go through.
Oh,
And
nice. Yeah, I just pulled it up. I'll have to take a peek at this.
pretty cool. I should get a paid plug for that. Seamless, if you're listening.
If Alexa's listening.
Always.
Listening.
But
you'll
yeah,
get a
no,
check in the mail.
I agree with you. I think there are some great tools out there. I think LinkedIn is something huge that people aren't using enough. MSPs are referral-based businesses. You're not following your clients and their clients and getting connected out there, you're going to struggle. And we're not in the days where you brought your computer. Somebody brings their computer into your shop like normal. That's probably a lot less. You gotta find other ways. You gotta evolve a bit.
Well, yeah, and if you're my customer and you don't think highly enough of what we're doing for you to want to tell anybody else about us, then we should sit down and talk, because that's minimum standard care. Okay, fine, you feel better, but that's it. If that's all that's left and there's been nothing else added into the relationship at all, then we've missed the boat.
We realize this is revolutionary, what I'm about to say, so everyone pay attention. But yeah, we don't sign, and we won't sign long-term contracts. For example, like again, back to this nonprofit, we've got probably 200 seats in the hopper that we're trying to close this quarter. But the one client, because they were stuck in such a long-term contract and they couldn't get out, the animosity and the angst that they have, oh my gosh, just terrifies me. So what we do with our contracts is we write it that it's an annual contract. But if they give us, depending on the size, if it's like 20 or less, we'll write it so he can get out in 30 days, but we got transition. If it's a little bit larger than that, we want a little bit longer. But if you don't want to be married to us, why are we going to hold you hostage? And we saw that a lot with the pandemic last year, where people were just pissed at their MSP. And there was also another MSP out here in Denver seems so long ago, November of 2019, where they got, I forget the name of the bug, sounded Russian, but their RMM tool got hacked, and all of these guys got shut down, the clients. And one of our eventual clients did pay a ransom between 15 and 20,000, but then he wanted out of his contract, and he's still in a contract. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to hold him hostage, even though you got a contract, and you just hose them. So like what Dave's saying, we'll sign a 1-year contract. And what that contract means is we won't change pricing for a year, period. That's what it is, to protect them and to protect us. But if you're like, hey, this isn't working out, whether it's 2 days or 6 weeks, hey, you don't want to be, you don't want to, maybe it's more like dating. If you don't want to keep dating us, then we're done. But that forces us then to take care of the client on a month to month. We're not just sending an invoice, hey, thanks, have a nice day. We're actually reaching out, which I don't do enough of anyhow. Right, Dave? So
we actually do the same thing from a VoIP angle. Yeah, we do 30-day opt-out. For us, George, when he started it out of his MSP, he said, I've lost an MSP client. It sucks. Last thing I want to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do is turn around to somebody like you and say, oh, you lost a client? That's really rough. I'll send you that bill in 30 days. I mean, that's not right?
Well, we've seen that in the VoIP space too. I had asked earlier if I could say it, so I'll say it.
Be cool.
We have a client that got merged. We had a client that had a division they bought out of Seattle that it was going to, whatever. And one of them was on one VoIP, another one was on 8x8. And then we helped them port out of 8x8 into another platform. And we had sent an email to 8x8 that, hey, we're reporting these numbers out, this, that. They're like, okay, great. Well, then they sent us another bill. We're like, what are you doing? Well, the contract auto renewed. Like, we asked for these numbers to be ported out. Well, sorry, the contract auto renewed. I'm like, okay, well, what do we got to do to get out of it? Well, you got to pay the.
What was that, 2 months ago?
Feels like 3 years ago because it's taken. So
yeah, we can get out of the
them.
contract early if we.
Yeah,
if
you
we
get out of
pay
the contract early. You need to pay the remainder 11
the
months.
entire contract.
It's a load of crap. We are still going back and forth, and I'm like, you guys, you are billing.
They've had enough internal committee meetings that
they should
the
have
cost
just
of the cost of the contract is like $4,000.
Yeah.
Between our time and their time, we're at like $12,000 freaking dollars
Let them out.
of people's brain power and labor hours that have been flushed down the toilet, and we still don't really know if they're going to actually cancel the.
Yeah,
like
I'm the one that has to send the reminder every week, any update, and I'm not real good about reminders and all. Oh, I was just thinking about you, and I'm like, no, you weren't. So anyhow.
It's that scene from The Incredibles where the old lady's trying to get the insurance payment out, and he's like, here's the 95 steps that you can cut through the bureaucracy to get, just freaking do the right thing. It's a small company. It's a $4,000 contract. Why are we still talking about this?
Yeah. So we've even said things like this, Alec, like, hey, we're a 5-person organization. To do what's right for our client, we'll eat it, versus you're a 2,000-person company. And we're dealing with all this red tape.
And to Corey's point, he makes it sound like we have to cut people off in 2 days, which is not the case. But vice versa, man, if I've done the wrong thing and you want to get away from us, I'm not going to stab you in your freaking eye on the way out the door. What?
Yeah, no way.
That's what
all I want is for you to be successful. I want us to be successful. I want you to be successful. If it's not going to work and I'm not going to make you successful, I want to help you be successful with somebody else.
Yeah, even though we joke, be successful elsewhere. We're not a fit.
No.
We're just not always a fit.
I've seen so many cases though where, if it's handled right, in those situations where it was 2 days and you have a false start and, things go right, that if you do it right and you handle it right, that person, the likelihood of them coming back is pretty high. Because when they look at it, they get to the next provider is horrible. And they're like, wow, those guys were really nice.
That was the rest of this conversation this week was we got rid of Salesforce as our CRM because I'm like, we just don't need it. It was $300 a year. I just wanted to make sure we didn't auto renew it. I've now had 7 emails and 2 phone calls to kill a $25 a month thing. And they think it's customer service. I'm like, now it's harassment. But we also got rid of another QBR product software. So we were going to combine. So there was Salesforce. Dave and I were just cleaning up the books this month. There was a
little consolidation.
Product, and then another organization that really, how do I say this? They're the master of warranty information. How's that?
Sometimes you get a thorn in the pads on your foot and it really just
scales up.
It scales up to a place where it just hurts.
So we were combining the QBR software with the warranty, and we found another QBR software that we really like these guys. So I had to call the one warranty company. And that was pretty easy, but they're like, hey, you have to pay another month because you have to give us 30 days notice. Dave and I are totally cool with that. The other organization, this is what triggered it, Alec, is what you had said was, they're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry to see you go. We're cancel your account. You'll get paid through, you'll have access to it to the end of the month. We just don't auto renew it. So it was only like 2 weeks more. And they ended that email with, if you ever want to come back, if you ever, whatever, we'll always take you back, which I was like, that's the right way to do it versus 7 emails, 2 phone calls.
And in that context, it was purely a workflow. It was purely a workflow situation for us, right? So I'm only making a decision in this area based on how we're doing something and getting it across. So now, in all of the places that we interact with the community and in all of the channels that we're in and all the places we talk, it was cloud radio. I'll just say it. Those guys are top notch. They're absolute pros. I liked their product. It's an excellent product. And if it's doing what you need it to do, then keep using it. But just as an organization, as a company, that's what I hope people see when they look at us, or if they go sideways with us and we interact with them somehow in that way. And everybody leaves and says, well, it didn't work out. But it's like we're all adults here, right? Like, how is that this deep?
Well, we start every conversation with our clients like that.
It's just bizarre. Like,
right out of
no,
the
but
gate. We'll tell them
you
that.
why
touched on
is this
something.
special?
Yeah. If we work out, great. If we don't, we'll point you in the right direction.
Exactly. And that's the thing, like you touched on something great there, right? Because we talked about closing business up front, but I think this is just as important. It's something everyone needs to think about. I mean, you should have an internal process and probably in your MSA, how your offboarding looks, what that
Well, that was the
process
other
looks
thing.
like.
With one of those clients, we said, we're done. And they said, okay, here's how it's going to work. A, B, C, D, E, F. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they've got this as painless as possible, because another client we had that started pretty much January 1, I think he started January 1. The offboarding from the previous MSP was atrocious. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You know, oh no, we got to bill you for a partial payment on your Microsoft licenses because we couldn't roll the CSP over on January 1. So we're going to send you an invoice for 4 days of your licenses. I'm like, dude, now you're nickel and diming. Now you're just being an ass. So stop, you know.
That's a great way to never get that business again.
Well, and I think part of the way that this works too, that needs to be said as well, is that the idea of easy out, you know, or relatively painless out, is still built on and predicated upon. I'm not worried about us landing your business for the next 12 months. I'm trying to figure out how are we going to be interacting with each other, and how are we going to be supporting you and helping you in 5 years. Not that I'm assuming that we're going to be here in 5 years, but I'd like to be, because that's what
We're
we
playing
want.
the
We
long
want
game.
all to come together so that we're able to put together and help you with your business processes so much that there's no question in 5 years, or for another annual renewal, here we go, let's do it again, of course, because we're such and embedded is the wrong word, because, you know, ingrown toenails are embedded.
It's a relationship.
Such an integrated part of the ongoing solution, and continuing to bring. Well, think about it. How many people, and one of the ones you were talking about earlier today, they've been, so their board is risk averse, because I literally said, you guys have 2 years left in this contract. It's the worst contract I've ever seen in my life. You are in an abusive relationship. And I don't say that lightly to make light. We ran network scans. We did network audit for them.
Oh yeah.
Stuff here.
Bad.
Not only I'm getting angry just remembering, but not only can we give you cause to get out of this contract, I'll freaking testify. You need to sue their asses. Like, this is negligible, unconscionable, almost intentional.
It's unique, Dave.
So
use the word
bad.
unique. Don't use weird.
So bad. And this is a big multi-city MSP. It just blows my freaking mind.
Yeah.
So the board's like, no, we went sideways on a contract and it went to litigation, and we're never going to do that again. So we're going to write it out. And I'm like, okay. But now they literally are walking around trying to function with this like festering infected stick in their side.
Like an ingrown toenail.
It just breaks my heart. What are we doing? So anyway, I don't remember what my point was, but it's just.
You just wanted to get angry.
What was my point? God bless.
Grab your coffee cup with the little pony.
We're just talking about what an offboarding looks like, and you're right. Yeah. I mean, the amount of people that we've had come back to us is actually huge. You know, and I like to think it goes back to that, right?
I remembered what my point was. Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying, which is that I don't want you to be sitting around waiting for me to die early because of our 3-year contract.
Yeah.
I want us to be in a 10-year contract that every single year you say, I really hope you're not firing me as a client because I love you, right?
They got lazy because they knew they had a 3-year contract is really what it is.
Oh, it's the worst thing
I
I've ever
got
seen.
you. You know, we're going to make $500,000 off you over the life of this contract. Get over it. You know,
I seriously am going to write a book as soon as we get them extracted successfully. It's the most, it's like these horror stories you see where, you know, some dentist in the.
You're kind of hangry.
I am hangry. Well, you know, you see these things where like there's this doctor somewhere in the Midwest that turns out he's got like 85 bodies in his garage. Like, people trust you. You're telling them that you're going to do this stuff. And not only are you not doing it, you're actively. Anyway, I'm done.
No. You know what?
He wants everyone to ask you a question. Like, what?
You're giving all of us a bad name. You make the whole industry look like a whole bunch of just, you know, road sharks. It makes me so angry.
honestly, I've seen it. I've seen an 8-year VoIP contract, which is terrifying. And just from a technology perspective,
Dude, we're gonna have flying phones in 8
Dude.
years.
Dude,
Right?
We very well could.
Alec, here's another one. At that one client where the guy, it was his first IT manager.
Yeah.
They paid how many years? They've 7
Oh my
years.
gosh.
They had a
They've been
7-year
leasing.
contract with Mitel.
It's not even the contract. They've just been paying the
On
lease
the
on the
hardware.
phones. They've been paying the
On the
lease
hardware.
on the phones for like I'm like, guys, you bought these phones like 9 times.
So that's the thing.
Like
and that's the
9
worst part.
times you bought these phones.
Nobody cares. I'm like,
And the worst part there is somebody like you is going to come in and has to handle it and service those. And that phone should have been replaced 2 or 3 times in that.
yeah, we're
If
gonna
they
have a hard
want
time
replaced
explaining to them.
upgrading
They
your
need-
hardware.
Times. Correct.
But somebody
need new
who paid
phones.
for a 9-year contract is going to expect those phones to work for 18 years.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. And that's like any kind of hardware. I mean, it's a very hard thing to deal with. So definitely something I've run into. I
Good
feel your
times.
pain there.
Ask another question.
So what are you guys doing right now for prospecting? What are you? I mean, obviously we talked about LinkedIn. Are you doing any?
You know what? We have enough
local
clients
or-
right now. We're totally fine. We don't need any more.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I
You
just
seem
want
like
to
the guy
see
that-
Dave lose
that's
his
totally
mind.
comfortable.
I'm really just pushing his buttons now that he. What are we doing for new clients? Oh man.
I mean, obviously LinkedIn's a major one for you. Are you seeing anything work locally? Are you guys trying any direct mail or any digital?
No direct
I mean,
mail.
We're really not spending money, to be honest with you. And
yeah.
I mean, a little bit here and there with some of the LinkedIn stuff. And we're starting to play around with some targeted ads. But really, we've kind of been the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, we've kind of been in this like growth.
Our growth has been internal with our
Pincher.
clients.
Where I'm
Existing
kind of like,
clients.
we do not need to turn on some mechanism whereby we suddenly have 300 more leads to deal with. Like we're doing that foot, 1 foot in front of the other bit where, we gotta kind of coil before the next.
Listen, he's the
strike
IT
from a
guy. He doesn't
scalability
want to do it.
perspective.
He
But
doesn't. He's the no
it's
guy.
like, we'll quadruple this year.
Yeah.
That sounds good, but warn me before you do that, would you?
We probably are adding 1 new client a month on
That's great.
average. Dave will
That's
argue
really
with
good.
me here.
It's been a good pace.
Yeah, it's been a good
Our discussion
year.
is more, what are we going to do next to turn up and match, because a lot of it's just been, who do we know? And it's all been word of mouth, and it's all been, and I've kind of been waiting for it to run out, frankly, and it hasn't yet. But
we're still
so
looking
part
at
of that
quality
discussion
versus
is, what
quantity.
are we going to do in the next 6 months where it's time to start throwing some money at just generating those, that first round of, because if you give us somebody that's remotely interested in buying services, that's really all we need. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a very delicate dance from that moment. That we're good at that. But generating, give me 30 people that are interested, that's something we're still experimenting with.
One thing I'll leave you guys with is something we've seen a lot of success with in our partner base is utilize your vendors. And I know my team's like,
you have
stop
some leads
giving out
for us.
money.
That's great.
I mean, we do give out leads.
Listen, what are we doing here?
But MDF funds. MDF is huge.
Yeah,
and
we
if
saw that
used
the
right-
other day.
Yeah.
Somebody had said one of the vendors will do LinkedIn targeted marketing ads. So I need to circle back with that. Lenovo's got a great program. Datto's got a great program. Most of the, the bigger guys, they're looking for people to just raise their hand and say, hey, we'll give you leads. Microsoft what was that office that was in the mall, Dave? Remember for
the
Microsoft?
Microsoft store.
Yeah.
The Microsoft store, they called it.
Yeah, there was a couple leads that came out of there.
Nice.
A couple of them were hot garbage, but I mean, still.
Then they closed them all down, so who knows?
Yeah,
For
we're
us,
not allowed out of our houses in Colorado.
yeah, I'm in New York. I'm pretty much same boat.
Just kidding. we can leave. You just have to put a hood on, but yeah.
We, for us, it's always just been about the partner that raises their hand and has a plan. And that's a big thing I'd say with it is, think a little bit or just ask the vendor, hey, what have you seen work?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, here's
digital
another one that'll scare you.
conversion.
So we just became LastPass partners. Is that the right way to say it, Dave?
Mhm.
I think that's acceptable.
So last night they sent me an encyclopedia of information, which, oh my God, it was a rabbit hole, which was fantastic. But now I just need to read through it all and figure out how to, pimp it out to everything. But yeah, you're right. The good ones have.
You need to find some solutions for that problem.
Right. What are we
Wait.
doing here?
Oh man. All right. Well, I know we are getting up to the hour here.
Oh my God, really?
So
I told you we could talk for hours.
Yeah, that was
Hey,
quick.
we could, and we'll definitely have you guys back. I mean, these sessions are always fun, and
Well, we'll let you
Um,
think about that. You might change your mind. We won't
I
hold
will
you
say
to
it here officially first. We would love to have you guys back. Now you guys have been a blast, and it's just nice to hear it from the front line, right? I mean, what people are seeing, what people are hearing. I hope you guys see some value in this in the future,
Yeah.
right? From future sessions, and if
We
you ever
won't
need help from
sugarcoat
us,
it. You'll definitely know that. So
I hope you don't. At this
No.
point, I would not expect it. So, no, it's been a blast. For anybody else that's listening, if you guys have any questions, do you want a way that people can reach you if they want to, or I mean, are you guys teaming up with any MSPs out there, or any kind of collaborative projects where you might want to throw out some contact info or website for anybody to reach you? I mean, definitely Corey on
I
LinkedIn.
can't. My Greyhound is barking his head off in the background right now. So I had to
Well,
mute. I can't hear.
Don't worry about it. You can definitely reach Corey on LinkedIn, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna guess you can reach Dave there as well. Pretty easily.
CastleRockSky.com. We're both there.
Perfect.
Pretty sure our emails are on there too.
Perfect. And for anybody else, thank you for attending, and obviously thank you to both of our panelists today. Appreciate you guys. I know it's obviously not easy to run a business. Taking an hour out of it is a big ask. So
I worked
definitely
the whole time.
appreciate it. we saw you. We saw you.
Yep.
But
We had fun, Alec. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
appreciate
it
it,
was a
Alec.
blast. You guys were a lot of fun. And we'll be back every Tuesday and Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're here. So I'll see everybody next week. Thanks again.
Right on.
Thanks, Alec. Bye, guys.